Hi, so welcome to this microcourse, Leadership Beyond Titles. So what we're going to take a look at is, first of all, what leadership is and how emotional intelligence plays a role in leadership. We'll also consider how we can lead even without official authority and how we can be ethical and adaptable in our leadership. Finally, we'll look at ways that you can develop your unique leadership voice. So let's jump right into it. So first, leadership is not just a title. It's a way of being, a way of living. And I want to make sure that as we get started, everybody can see themselves as a leader. So you don't need to hold a certain job title, and it's not about your position. It's not necessarily about traits either. Sometimes we think, okay, well, confidence and charisma are required, but they're not. They can certainly help us as we develop and build our confidence and charisma and our ability to not necessarily woo or win others over, but to at least have some degree of influence. And in that, our behaviors ultimately are what's key. So showing up with intention, taking responsibility, will help you influence and impact others through your values and through your actions. Everyday leadership happens with our siblings and other young family members. It can happen with our peers at school, through parenting, other forms of caregiving, and through community building. So everyone is a leader in some capacity already in their life. So you might be leading your family through a tough season, or you might be helping to lead your friend group through some conflict. You could be helping to lead your team at school or at work, even behind the scenes, where maybe you're not necessarily getting that recognition through a role, but you know that you're having an impact. You know that you're influencing outcomes and other people's behavior. Mia works at a cafe. She's not in management, but she consistently diffuses tense customer interactions and situations. And she supports her co-workers when things get hectic. Her calm presence and taking the initiative raise morale. She's a leader, even without a title. So to reflect, where might you have taken the lead without being asked? Before you can lead others, you'll have to lead yourself. So here comes the inner work of leadership and how self-leadership and emotional intelligence are key. So understanding your triggers, managing your reactions, and aligning your actions and responses with your values are especially important. They're critical when under pressure and when leading others in any capacity. So emotional intelligence then becomes the foundation of leadership for your self-leadership and for others. And that includes self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, and social regulation. Understanding your motivations, the motivations of others, and how those motivations play into the context of situations helps us manage ourselves and the circumstances around us. So self-leadership includes modeling what you want to see and using the golden rule, or even what would Jesus do. Strong leaders know their values and they work to stand on those central values while integrating them into the outside goals. Our mini case study here involves Raj. After a failed group presentation, Raj took the time to process his emotions. He asked for feedback, and he used that to grow. Rather than blaming others or feeling bad about himself, he modeled humility and reflection. He modeled this to his peers so that hopefully in the future he can do better. In preparation for creating your own leadership statement, go ahead and reflect on what values guide your decisions, your leadership, especially under stress. Some of the most impactful leaders aren't loud and they aren't in charge. They're just the ones who create psychological safety, ask the right questions, and empower others to shine. Because remember, leadership is about influence and impact. And that's built on trust, not on titles. Our trust and our relationships are greater than hierarchy. And often our trust and our relationships are built on the ability to facilitate. So this is also known as small L leadership. Not necessarily being in a position of authority, although in a position of authority, you can still use small L leadership. It's understanding that we're all equals as human beings and facilitating others to step into their leadership qualities or to understand their talents, their strengths, their gifts, and empowering them to utilize those talents and gifts for the outcomes of the group. Holding that space and empowering others means not creating followers, but creating other leaders. Quiet leaders listen, encourage, and model integrity. Let's take a look at Alex. Alex is a junior team member. Even though he hasn't been at his company but for a few months, he's leading a new sustainability initiative. Without formal authority, he's inspiring others by politely sharing research, building consensus, and offering supportive opportunities. His project ends up succeeding thanks to influence. Now reflect on it. How do you tend to influence others? Through words, actions, or presence? Sometimes leadership means making a call that no one else wants to, or admitting that you don't have the answers just yet. Leadership requires us to be ethical and adaptable. Adaptive leaders don't react, they assess and respond. They lean into discomfort and lead with integrity, even when it's difficult. Real leaders face complex dilemmas. We all do. So what makes you a leader is doing that ethically and adaptively. By having integrity, you do what's right, even when it's not easy or popular. And adaptive leadership means that you're going to be flexible and courageous by taking in all the information you can, considering your values, considering outcomes, considering other people's perspectives. You have to be willing to pause, to listen, and to learn. For example, Lena notices a colleague being unfairly excluded at team meetings. Although she's nervous, she speaks up to her manager privately, framing it as a values-based issue, and her action helps to shift team culture in a more positive and inclusive direction. So ask yourself, what would you do if the right choice was the unpopular choice? Now that you've worked through this microcourse, you should have a better understanding of who you are as a leader and how you see yourself putting leadership qualities into action consistently. To help you define how you apply this, we're going to work together to create a leadership purpose statement or mantra. You'll find a link to a Canva template as well as a PDF link in case you'd rather download it. You can use this statement any way that you want, but some examples would be for personal affirmation, for a reminder in tough decision making, or as the base for a powerful value proposition in networking. Remember, your leadership voice comes from your lived experiences, your values, and your goals. You don't need to lead like anyone else. Your power is in knowing what matters to you and living it out with integrity. Your personal mission, your vision, and your mantra or leadership statement can help keep you centered and guide you. You'll find two sections to our worksheet. The first is about discovering your leadership identity. And there's 4 prompts here to help you develop the different elements that go into your personal leadership statement. The first one is, what roles do you already lead in? So think of your roles at home, at school, at work. Next, what values are non-negotiable for you? So some examples are honesty, integrity, respect for others, kindness, or a strong work ethic. Third, we'll look at what strengths or talents are inherent and often recognized in you. So what things do you feel like come naturally or that others often compliment you on? Some examples are being strategic, innovative, empathetic, adaptable, competitive, disciplined, or creative. If you've ever taken a Clifton Strengths assessment, those might come in handy. But you can also Google a list of terms for strengths to kind of help you get an idea of where yours are. And finally, what changes do you want to help make happen? So think about what changes you are trying to make happen in yourself, in your family, in your workplace, or in the world in general. So in the second part of the worksheet, we'll put all of this together. And feel free to move things around a little bit as you feel called so that you have those basic elements in place in a way that fits your mantra and what aligns with your values. Optionally, you might want to consider who you want to impact or work with. Some examples and considerations might be working with students, working with people in a particular industry or at a particular organization you belong to. It might be youth, your family, people of a certain demographic or position that you are connected to and feel strongly about. This can be very broad or it can be very specific. However, if it is specific, I would just encourage you to be mindful of how you fit into that role and how you feel aligned as an appropriate person to lead in that area. Maybe you care about skincare or people who have survived something because you have your own lived experiences and have had to overcome specific challenges. Once you've put together your personal leadership statement or mantra, we'll be all done. And you can go ahead and take that quiz that you'll find the link to and download your certificate of completion.